Snyder, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and thank you for joining us. Today, we have Michelle Cox with us. And Michelle is famous for many things, but number one being the SIBA Awards 2022, I believe it was. You got the best of books, the overall win for the entire competition. You've got this great series out there, of which, let me see, which was it, The Spying Eye? Is that the one that actually won that competition?
Yeah, The Spying Eye is number 6, and that was the one that won the overall conference
Number
award.
6.
Yeah.
That means it's a pretty good series going on there. And you do historic fiction, is that correct?
Yes, historical fiction. It's sort of a mystery romance mix. So I call it historical mystery. Yeah.
Historical mystery.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, that works good. So
yeah.
Tell us about, now I happen to know personally a little bit, but let's tell what's your time period and what's the process there?
So the series is set in the 1930s in Chicago. And like I said, it's a mystery series. So each book has its own contained mystery, but the series is kind of progressive in that the characters continue to develop across the series. So it's best to read them in order. And then there are a lot of subplots going on through the whole series. So that makes it kind of interesting and fun too. It's like a Downton Abbey meets Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries.
Well, pick the good ones, because that you follow that kind of plot line and it works pretty well. If it works for them, it'll probably work for me. Way back in my business studies, it was find something that works and do it again. So that's not a bad process whatsoever, no matter what you're doing. And in this case, it seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
Now you have a new book out, or did it come out yet?
Yes. So A Haunting at Linley is book 7 of the series, and that is the series finale. So I wrap it up. I wrap up all the storylines. It's been getting some really nice reviews from fans who really liked the way it all wrapped up. I did leave one storyline open-ended because that character is going to get her own series. So I'm currently writing that spin-off series. Personally, I never saw this one ending. I love these characters and I wanted it to keep going on and on, but there was a little bit of a conflict with the publisher. And so we mutually agreed that it would end, and then I would be free to kind of go off and do what I wanted to do. So
all righty. So you have an outside publisher?
Yeah, it's a hybrid publisher. So it's She Writes Press. So technically I'm still indie, but we share a lot of, I'm traditionally distributed. So that's kind of the key, so that we're able to be in libraries and bookstores and stuff like that. So I do have a standalone coming out in March, and those are all going to be my self-publishing debuts. So
all right. Well, that's good for would-be authors, or even authors in now, to know a different process or another process, a hybrid system of publishing. That's good. Can you get you the best of both worlds and kind of connected both directions on it? That's good.
You know, I learned a lot from them. I say going with a hybrid press, or She Writes Press in particular, it's kind of like getting a PhD in publishing. And then at the end you get this book, and because it's just, a lot of it is very educational, and you sort of learn the business sort of inside out. So it's very transparent, and it was really, really super helpful, and also helpful in learning the marketing game, and also just connecting with so many other fellow authors. At first, they said when you sign the contract, they're like, this is a big perk because you're part of this community. And I'm like, who cares? But really, that has proved to be the biggest, probably most helpful part of the experience, was just connecting with so many very talented authors who had so much to share and so much to teach and so much to give. So it's great.
That is true. I happen to agree very much. And in fact, we met at a conference where my big thing at conference is bumping into people, meeting them, see what they, because when you don't know, you don't know. In fact, my first conference, I didn't know enough to even know what I didn't know. And, and it's really true. and
Yeah.
now I am getting better at it. I would hope that other authors do that also, because those connections with other people can take you places you never dreamed of.
Exactly. I mean, for example, I'm on your podcast now because we met at a conference, and
We
there's
did.
those types of connections are just invaluable. And I think it was somebody at Chanticleer conference who was speaking, who was talking about the importance of not just attending the sessions, but being available at the bar, or just mingling with people is where some of the best connections actually happen.
That's true. That's true. And
Yeah.
that's where you can bump into agents and things like that
Mhm.
at most conferences, and do a little elbow rubbing and gain information beside just what is given at the conference itself, and making those friends that really do become friends. So you've got 6 books in this series. You've got a standalone. You've got another series. So we have like 8 books at the moment now.
Well, let's see. The series has 7. So, and then I have a book coming out in March, a standalone, a historical fiction, and
Mhm.
then I'm hoping to put out the first series spin-off in September of next year. So that will be 9 books. And I actually have another one written, another standalone that I need some editing, and then I'm going to bring that one out too.
All right. Now that's busy. So you've got a lot of them out there. I don't know how long you've been writing, but when do you try to produce one a year, one every 2 years, one every 6? And what kind of process do you use, and how do you go about all of that?
Book 1 of that took me about a year to write and edit, but then the second and third books only took a couple of months for me to write because I was really on fire.
Get in
But
the
then
flow, go
yeah,
while you're
but
hot.
exactly. But then by the time I got to book 4, I was doing so much marketing and promotion, like that piece of it sort of started to catch
Mhm,
up,
mhm.
that
And it
book
is
4,
required most of the time.
oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah, so book 4 took me well over a year to write because I was so, slammed by the marketing machine. Now I try to balance it a little better. So, but
Now
it's definitely an art.
with that much history in your series and length of
Mhm.
time over it, how do you keep track of
Mm.
what happens, who is who, all those kind of things? Do you use book Bibles? Uh,
Oh,
do you build
that's
your
so
own? How
good.
do you go about that?
Well, you know what? When I wrote book 1, I didn't think it was going to be a series, and so I didn't pay any attention to that. And then, like I said, I wrote book 2 and 3 really quickly. And it wasn't until I got to, I don't know, like maybe it was book 4 or 5, where I was reading through like an arc copy looking for any last mistakes. And I found one that somebody's eyes were green and they were supposed to be blue. So I
Those things
quickly,
happen.
yeah, they quickly emailed my project manager and I said, "Oh my God, I found this mistake. Can we change it? Is there still time?" And she said, "There is, but don't you have some kind of a story Bible?" And I'm like, "No, I really don't." So I did hire the person who edits for me. I hired her to go back through the series and create a story Bible for me. And so any authors out there, if you are starting a series, 100% start it, because all of the things that you're sure you're going to remember, by the time you get to book 6 or 7, you just really can't
You just
remember.
don't. You
Like
just don't.
who drives what kind of car, and you just can't remember all of that. So
It's true. And the further you go, the harder it is to catch up. So you just
yes.
have to remember. I started building my own right off the bat, because immediately I knew I was going to forget people's names, for goodness sake. Who is married to who? Who's friend of
Yeah.
who? Where do they live? All those things. And how many characters do you have in a book? I actually wasn't aware of it until I had an audio book and to a narrator, and then I had to have those
Mm,
broken down. Who's who? What are they? What, you give that data to them. And
mhm.
we spoke with Todd Meneses last week, who is the narrator we had for Stone, The Adventures of Ronan Stone, and we discussed how I had to build that sheet. And luckily I thought of it ahead of time. I'm kind of that way. So I said, I want this person to be like this and that person to be like that. And that's that, you have to do that. And if you
Yeah,
don't know those things or don't remember them, and you're book 4, and in book 1 you ran into this you're shot. Your
exactly.
readers will let you know.
Oh, for sure. Yes. And it's especially helpful too if you're writing more than one thing. And there's lots of authors out there who write more than one series at a time.
That's
And I
true.
can't even imagine what that's like. So yeah, very
And you'll
essential.
forget, because I know I take too much time between my books. I get into other things I'm doing. Um, and I forget, I have to go back and read through, and you waste time. So get it done
Yeah,
right and get it done correctly the first time,
I
and save yourself
know.
time and effort, and you won't have to go through those glitches. So do you have any particular tools of the trade that you use, a way you write, or a writing process, or app you use maybe?
I'm not into like the Scrivener or any of those types of software. I'm very old fashioned. I write in Word. I am a plotter. I think that it's really important with mystery, although I have met
Yeah,
many mystery authors who claim to not know the killer until the end. So that's pretty tricky. For me, I feel like because you need to work in the red herrings and, the plot twists. So I have a pretty good outline before I even start writing, kind of what the main story arc is going to be, the sub stories where those are going, and definitely who the killer is. The only time I didn't do that was the last book that just came out, A Haunting at Linley. So it's kind of an Agatha Christie style book where there's a murder in an English manor house and there's all these suspects, and that Clive and Henrietta have to figure it out. Everybody has a motive to be the killer. And um I kind of had an idea who it was going to be. I'm like, okay. And so I was working through the story, and then I got to the end and I'm like, okay, it's got to be one of these, 3 people. And I had written their motives, I feel like, so well that it could have been any of them. So I finally had to pick one, but then that required me to go back and fix the story a little bit. It's kind of like what you're saying, it's just wasted time. So I will never ever do that again. So yeah, no
we
other
learn as we
particular
go.
tools.
We hope we
Yeah,
learn as we go.
I hope we learn as we go. I try to compartmentalize a lot. That if that's I don't know if that's kind of the tool you're looking for, but we were talking about how writing is a business, and that's certainly not something that I realized going into it.
Just
Um,
write, just begin with, you're just writing.
yeah,
Yeah.
just read a book, but you feel so awesome when you finish that book. Like, I wrote a book, but then
Well, it is a huge endeavor.
it is. Yeah, it is. But then you're just at the bottom of another mountain. So then you have to publish it. And then once you get it published, you're at the bottom of another mountain. It's called marketing.
It's true.
So yeah. So it really, I think, requires a lot of discipline to sort of compartmentalize that time, because otherwise you're spending too much time writing and not enough time marketing, or vice versa. So I try to be pretty diligent about, watching that.
Yeah, I know I'm doing lots of things as this, Author in the Headlights is a whole new project on top of the other things I do. Um, and I really have to basically schedule, okay, I have to have time to write today. Otherwise, I just don't, because it's
Uh-huh.
one of those creative elements that you have to feel the flow. That's kind of how you write. Get into it, you get stuck. I'll get to it. It's one of these days. But if you're going to actually produce work, you need to schedule that as part of your job. If you're going to
Yeah.
be a writer, then you need to be a writer,
Right.
because it
Yeah.
will probably take more than one book to get your name out there, probably several. And
Exactly.
then you still have to be lucky. So you do have to produce not only numerically books, but you also have to produce really good books. And sometimes really good isn't enough by itself. They have to be really great books. Robert Gandhi told me that. It has to be great writing nowadays, not just good writing. So if you're going to do it, you better do it right.
Yeah,
Don't waste
exactly.
your time. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. You really need a great editor. I think that's one of the keys.
Oh, yes. You don't depend on yourself to do it all yourself because it may be just great for you. But if you're looking for that market, if you're looking for other people to enjoy your work, and then you want it right.
Mhm.
And it takes more than one set of eyes to make sure you get everything. You just won't catch everything yourself because your mind
No.
already knows what it's supposed to say. So it reads it like it's supposed to say, not what you actually put down there. I can't tell me
Yeah.
how many times I've done that. And thank goodness for editors.
Yes, exactly. And I also that's a mistake that I made early on is because I'm an English major, I thought, well, I know how to edit something. But huge mistake because it's a completely different type of editing. And as you're
It is.
saying, nobody can see all of their own mistakes. It's impossible.
You
So
just don't. Yep.
yeah.
You just don't. And there are so many kinds of edits. Don't think, well, I got an editor, I got it edited once. There are so many kinds of edits, and you just need to do it, whether you're doing it with with beta readers or manuscript overviews or line edits, or there is on and on and on. It needs to be done, and more than once.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I probably read through a manuscript, I don't know, maybe I'd say 8 times before I even give it to an editor, and then you're back and
Absolutely.
forth with them,
I
and
say I
yeah,
probably rewrite the book 8 or 9 times because
I
once you edit
know,
it, you have to change it all. Once you change it, you have to read it.
I know. It's an endless cycle.
It's just the process and it's just the business. So if you're going to
Mhm.
do it right and do it good and get some help. And if you need help, by the way, if you're an author, whether you're new or want to be an author, on Durham Publishing, there is an author's resources page that just links you to those things that you would like to, like an editor, book covers, everything you want is in there. So, and it simply goes to them. I mean, Durham Publishing has nothing to do with that process. That's just a way so you can find people. And if you don't know how, that's one method. Also, Michelle's books. Let me see. Your series name is Henrietta and Inspector Howard. That's the name of the
Yes,
series. Yes. Um,
exactly.
I highly recommend it. And she'll be on our guest authors page, and her books will be there linked to where you can find them easily. So glad to
Perfect.
have you a part of that too. And this has been fun.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Strider. This is really fun.
All right.
All
I want to
right.
thank everybody for being here. Michelle, thank you so much for spending some of your day with us. I'm Strider. This is Author in the Headlights, sponsored by Durham Publishing. You can check it out at durhampublishing.com. And until next time, thanks for being with us.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Sponsored by durhampublishing.com.